Well, folks, pull up a chair. I need to talk to you about something that happened this week that's so perfectly ironic, so beautifully self-destructive, so completely predictable yet still stunning in its revelation, that it almost feels like someone wrote it as satire. Except it's real. It's documented. It's happening right now on Elon Musk's platform, formerly known as Twitter. And it exposes something that many of us have suspected for years but couldn't definitively prove until Musk himself, in his infinite wisdom, accidentally revealed it. MAGA has a massive imposter problem. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean literally. Actual imposters, foreign actors, people in Bangladesh and India and Nigeria and Russia and Thailand pretending to be American MAGA supporters, creating accounts with names like America First and Ultra Trump 2028 and MAGA Beacon, building huge followings, hundreds of thousands of followers, influencing American political discourse, spreading propaganda, shaping narratives, and getting paid by Elon Musk to do it. That's right, Elon Musk, who bought Twitter for $44 billion, claiming he wanted to preserve free speech, who turned it into a MAGA propaganda machine, who keeps his thumb on the scale to make sure right-wing grievances and white nationalist talking points trend at the top of feeds, just accidentally exposed that many of the site's top MAGA influencers are actually foreign trolls, not Americans, not Trump supporters expressing genuine political views. Foreign actors cosplaying as MAGA to make money from Musk's monetization scheme. The revelation came from a new feature Musk rolled out on X, called About This Account, designed to increase transparency by showing where accounts are based, where they operate from, what country they're in. Seems like a reasonable feature, right? Help users understand who they're interacting with, know whether accounts are authentic, distinguish real people from bots or foreign actors. But when this feature went live fully, when people started actually using it to check accounts, what they discovered was stunning. Many of the biggest MAGA influencers on the platform, accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, accounts that shape political discourse, accounts that spread propaganda and conspiracy theories and talking points, those accounts aren't based in America, aren't run by Americans, are operated from countries all over the world by people who figured out that pretending to be MAGA is profitable. Lauren Ashley Davis posted about it first. At least that's where I saw it. Wrote, Elon Musk's social media site X rolled out a new feature in an effort to increase transparency, and unwittingly revealed that many of the site's top MAGA influencers are actually foreign actors. Unwittingly, that's the key word. Musk didn't mean to expose this, didn't intend to reveal that his platform is full of foreign trolls pretending to be American Trump supporters. Just accidentally showed everyone what's actually happening because he implemented a transparency feature without thinking through what it would reveal. The irony is incredible. The man who claims X is the #1 source of news in the world, who promotes himself as a champion of free speech, who insists his platform is more authentic than mainstream media, just exposed that his platform is full of foreign actors manipulating American political discourse for profit, and not even for ideological reasons necessarily, just for money, because Musk's monetization scheme pays them to do it. Let me show you some examples, because the specifics matter, because understanding the scale of this matters, because seeing exactly who these accounts are and where they're actually based matters for understanding how Musk's platform actually works. There's an account called America First Verified. Sounds American, right? Sounds like a patriotic Trump supporter who loves America first. Policies. Check the new feature. Based in Bangladesh. Not America. Bangladesh. Someone in Bangladesh pretending to be an American Trump supporter, building a huge following, spreading MAGA propaganda, and getting paid by Musk for doing it. America Man. Another account that sounds deeply American. Based in Indonesia. Not America. Indonesia. Someone halfway around the world cosplaying as MAGA because it's profitable. Mary Tiles, Texas. Even has Texas in the name. Claims to be from Texas. Posts tons of pro-MAGA content. Where's the account actually based? Russia. Someone in Russia pretending to be a Texan Trump supporter, spreading propaganda, influencing American politics, collecting checks from Musk, Ultra Trump 2028, based in Nigeria, Dark MAGA coin, based in Thailand, the MAGA beacon, based in South Asia, MAGA Nation, based in Eastern Europe, Aaron Trump News, also Eastern Europe. It goes on and on, account after account after account, all over the world, all pretending to be American Trump supporters, all building huge followings, all getting paid by Musk. And here's the thing that makes this particularly insidious. These aren't just random trolls doing it for fun. These aren't ideological actors trying to influence American politics out of commitment to some cause. These are people who figured out that Musk's monetization scheme makes pretending to be MAGA profitable, more profitable than whatever they'd be doing in their actual countries, more profitable than local hustles, profitable enough to make it worth spending hours creating content and building followings and spreading propaganda. X pays content creators for their posts, specifically verified content creators who engage with other verified content creators. That's the monetization scheme Musk implemented. The more engagement you get, the more you get paid. And MAGA content gets engagement, gets shares and likes and replies, gets people angry or excited or motivated to spread it further. So if you're someone in India or Bangladesh or Nigeria trying to figure out how to make extra money, you realize pretty quickly that spreading MAGA propaganda pays, might make a few $100 a month, might make a few thousand. And if you're living in a country where people normally live on dollars a day, that's life-changing money. So you create an account, give it an American-sounding name, fill it with American flags and MAGA imagery. Start posting the kind of content that gets engagement, conspiracy theories, outrage bait, attacks on Democrats, praise for Trump, content designed to provoke reactions, and you build a following, and you get verified. And suddenly you're getting paid by Elon Musk for spreading MAGA propaganda, even though you're not American, don't live in America, probably don't care about American politics beyond the fact that certain types of posts pay well. That's what the new transparency feature revealed, that Musk has created a MAGA swamp, a propaganda machine fueled by foreign actors who figured out that pretending to be American Trump supporters is profitable, and Musk is paying them to do it, incentivizing foreign interference in American political discourse, creating an ecosystem where the most engaged content, the content that shapes narratives and influences opinions and spreads across the platform, is often created by people who aren't even American. Now, some people on the right are trying to cope with this revelation, trying to dismiss it or minimize it or pretend it doesn't matter. But the cope is transparent, is visible in real time, because this confirms what a lot of people suspected but couldn't definitively prove. That much of the engagement on X, much of the MAGA content that trends, much of the apparent grassroots support for Trump and his policies is artificial, is manufactured by foreign actors who figured out the economic incentives Musk created, and you can verify this yourself. The feature is live. If you're on X, you can go to any account and check where it's based. Can see for yourself which of these supposedly American MAGA influencers are actually operating from overseas. Can discover that accounts you thought were fellow Americans sharing genuine political views are actually foreign trolls playing a character to make money. Now, some sophisticated actors will probably figure out how to spoof the location data eventually. Will use VPNs or other tools to make accounts appear American when they're not. But for now, for this moment, the truth is revealed. The curtain has been pulled back, and what's behind it is exactly what critics have been saying all along, that Musk's platform is not a bastion of free speech or authentic discourse, but a rage bait machine that sends dollars to overseas trolls. Let me talk about what this means for American political discourse, because it's not just about X. It's not just about Musk's platform being full of foreign actors. It's about how modern propaganda works, how political movements get manufactured, how narratives get shaped by actors who have no authentic stake in the outcomes they're advocating for. Traditional propaganda was produced by governments or ideological movements, was created by people who believed in what they were promoting, had political goals they were trying to advance, had worldviews they were trying to spread. The propaganda served those goals, advanced those worldviews, even if it involved deception or manipulation. But what Musk has created is different, is propaganda as a service. is a system where the incentive to create propaganda is purely economic, where people spread political messages not because they believe them, but because the messages pay well, where content is optimized not for truth or even for ideological consistency, but for engagement and monetization. That's more dangerous than traditional propaganda in some ways, because traditional propaganda at least has coherent goals and worldviews. You can understand what it's trying to accomplish, can identify the ideology behind it, can counter it by addressing the actual beliefs and goals it represents. But propaganda as a service has no coherent ideology beyond making money, has no consistent goals beyond maximizing engagement, will shift messages based on what pays rather than what's true or consistent, will say whatever generates reactions because reactions generate revenue, creates a discourse environment where truth and consistency and logical coherence don't matter, only engagement matters, only monetization matters. And that's what Musk has built, an engagement optimization machine that pays people to create whatever content provokes the strongest reactions. And it turns out MAGA content provokes strong reactions, gets shared widely, gets people arguing in comments, generates the kind of engagement metrics that translate to revenue. So people all over the world have figured out that creating MAGA content pays, even if they don't believe it, even if they're not American, even if they don't care about the political outcomes their content influences. That's the ecosystem. That's what the transparency feature revealed. That's why this matters beyond just being ironic or embarrassing for Musk, because it shows that American political discourse is being shaped by foreign actors whose only motivation is money, who will say whatever pays regardless of truth or consequences, who figured out how to game Musk's system for profit, and the consequences are real, are affecting actual American politics, because the content these foreign actors create shapes narratives, influences opinions, makes certain ideas seem more popular than they actually are, creates impression of grassroots support that doesn't actually exist, moves the Overton window by making extreme positions seem normal through sheer repetition and engagement. I've been watching markets and politics for 80 years. I've seen propaganda. I've seen manipulation. I've seen attempts to shape public opinion through deceptive means. But I've never seen anything quite like this. An American billionaire creating a system that pays foreign actors to pretend to be Americans spreading propaganda, all while claiming he's promoting free speech and authentic discourse, all while insisting his platform is more trustworthy than traditional media, all while positioning himself as fighting against censorship and elite control of information. The hypocrisy is staggering. The self-delusion is remarkable. The consequences for American democracy are concerning, because when significant portions of political discourse are manufactured by foreign actors motivated purely by profit, when the most engaged content comes from people who aren't who they claim to be, when narratives are shaped by propaganda as a service rather than by authentic political expression, democracy becomes harder to sustain. Democracy depends on informed citizens making decisions based on genuine discourse, on people understanding what their fellow citizens actually believe and want, on authentic expression of political views that reflect real concerns and values. When that's replaced by manufactured content from foreign actors pretending to be Americans, the foundation of democratic discourse erodes. You can't have meaningful political debate when you don't know who you're debating with. Can't understand what your fellow citizens want when much of what appears to be citizen expression is actually foreign actors playing roles. Can't make informed decisions when the information environment is polluted by propaganda created not to inform or persuade, but simply to generate engagement and revenue. That's what Musk has created. That's what his transparency feature revealed. That's why this matters so much. Not just because it's ironic that Musk exposed his own platform's problems, but because it shows how fundamentally broken his platform is, how far it's diverged from anything resembling authentic discourse, how thoroughly it's been captured by economic incentives that reward manipulation over authenticity. Now, let me address something important. This isn't just an X problem. Other platforms have similar issues. Facebook has foreign actors. Instagram has influence operations. TikTok has propaganda. The problem of foreign interference in social media discourse is widespread, but X is particularly bad for specific reasons related to how Musk has designed the monetization and verification systems. On other platforms, Foreign actors have to hide their origins more carefully, have to invest more in seeming authentic, face more scrutiny from platform moderation. Musk has made it easier by creating monetary incentives for engagement regardless of authenticity, by gutting content moderation, by verifying accounts based on ability to pay rather than on actual identity verification, by creating systems that reward engagement over everything else. So while the problem exists elsewhere, it's particularly acute on X. The transparency feature revealed that because it showed just how many supposedly American MAGA influencers are actually foreign actors, showed the scale of the problem, made visible what was previously suspected but unproven, and did so accidentally because Musk implemented transparency without thinking through what it would reveal. That's the ultimate irony. Musk claims to care about transparency and authentic discourse, implements a feature designed to increase transparency, and that feature immediately reveals that his platform is full of foreign actors pretending to be Americans spreading propaganda for money, reveals that the authentic discourse he claims to promote is actually largely manufactured by people who aren't who they claim to be. You can't make this stuff up. It's too perfectly ironic, too beautifully self-destructive, too revealing of the gap between Musk's claims and reality. He says X is the #1 news source. It's actually a propaganda mill. He says he promotes free speech. He actually promotes whatever generates engagement. He says he's fighting elite control of information. He's actually created a system where foreign actors control narratives for profit. The gap between rhetoric and reality couldn't be larger. And now, thanks to his own transparency feature, everyone can see it, can verify it themselves, can check the accounts they follow, and discover how many are actually based overseas, can understand that much of what they thought was authentic American political discourse is actually foreign actors playing roles for money. Let me talk about the economic model here, because understanding why foreign actors do this matters. Matters for understanding how widespread the problem is. Matters for understanding why it's so difficult to stop. Matters for grasping why Musk's platform is particularly vulnerable to this kind of manipulation. X pays content creators based on engagement. The more engagement your content gets from verified users, the more you earn. That's the basic model. Seems simple, seems like it would reward good content. Content people actually want to engage with. Content that's valuable or interesting or informative. But what actually gets engagement on social media? What makes people click and share and comment? Not necessarily good content, not necessarily accurate information, not necessarily valuable contributions to discourse. What gets engagement is content that provokes strong emotional reactions, content that makes people angry or afraid or outraged, content that confirms biases or challenges opponents or creates conflict. In other words, rage bait, propaganda, conspiracy theories, attacks, divisive content, content designed not to inform but to provoke, and the people who figure out how to create that kind of content most effectively, who optimize for engagement over everything else, who don't care about truth or consistency or consequences, those are the people who make the most money from Musk's monetization scheme. And it turns out people in developing countries who are willing to spend hours creating content for audiences they're not part of, who don't have emotional investment in the political outcomes their content influences, who can treat it purely as an economic optimization problem. Those people are particularly good at this. Can create content optimized purely for engagement without being distracted by concerns about truth or ethics or consequences. So they create accounts, build followings, figure out what kinds of content get the most engagement from American MAGA audiences, optimize their output for maximum revenue, and make more money than they could make in their local economies doing almost anything else. For someone living in Bangladesh or Nigeria or India on a few dollars a day, making hundreds or thousands of dollars a month from X is life-changing money, is worth investing time and effort into, is worth playing a role in pretending to care about American politics and creating propaganda that influences American discourse. That's the economic model. That's why this happens. That's why Musk's platform has become a magnet for foreign actors, because the monetization scheme rewards engagement over authenticity, because content moderation has been gutted, because verification is available to anyone who pays, regardless of identity, because the entire system is designed to maximize engagement without concern for whether that engagement is authentic or whether the content driving it is true. And Musk either doesn't understand this or doesn't care. Either doesn't see that his economic model incentivizes exactly the kind of foreign interference his transparency feature just revealed, or doesn't care because the engagement benefits his platform regardless of where it comes from or how authentic it is. Either way, he's created a system that's fundamentally broken for purposes of authentic discourse. That's optimized for engagement and revenue at the expense of truth and authenticity. That attracts foreign actors like moths to flame because it pays them to manipulate American political discourse. That's not a platform for free speech. That's a propaganda mill. That's exactly what critics have been saying it is. And now Musk's own transparency feature has proven it, has shown that much of the engagement, much of the content, much of what appears to be grassroots MAGA support is actually foreign actors playing roles for money. Now, I want to address what you should do about this, because understanding the problem is one thing, responding to it is another, and the response depends on whether you're on X and what you use it for. If you have an X habit, if you're checking it regularly, if you're engaging with content there, I implore you to get off the platform. I know that's difficult. I know many people feel they need to be there to stay informed or to participate in discourse or to reach audiences. But the platform is broken, is fundamentally compromised, is optimized for manipulation over authenticity. And your participation, your engagement, your presence, all of that feeds the system, makes it more powerful, makes it more profitable, makes the manipulation more effective. I have to be on X every day for research, have to monitor what's happening there, have to understand what narratives are spreading, have to track how discourse is being shaped. It's the worst part of my job, genuinely. Spending time in that toxic environment, seeing the manipulation, watching foreign actors pretend to be Americans spreading propaganda, understanding how broken the system is while being unable to avoid it for professional reasons. It's exhausting, it's demoralizing, it's harmful. But most people don't have to be there, don't have professional reasons requiring participation, can choose to spend their time and attention elsewhere, on platforms that at least try to moderate content and verify identities and reduce manipulation, on news sources that employ actual journalists and have editorial standards, on forms of discourse that aren't optimized for engagement over everything else. If you're X-curious, if you're thinking about joining, don't. The platform is broken, the discourse is polluted, the content is manipulated. The system is designed to provoke rather than inform. You're not missing anything valuable by staying off. You're protecting yourself from manipulation by avoiding it. And if you are on X, at minimum, use the new transparency feature. Check the accounts you follow. See where they're actually based. Discover which of the supposedly American voices you've been trusting are actually foreign actors. Understand that much of what you thought was authentic is manufactured. Adjust your understanding of the platform accordingly, because that's what the transparency feature enables. Enables people to see what's actually happening, to understand who they're actually interacting with, to recognize manipulation when it's occurring, to make informed decisions about who to trust and what to believe and how much weight to give to apparent grassroots support that might actually be manufactured by foreign actors for profit. That's valuable. That's why transparency matters. That's why Musk accidentally did something useful by implementing this feature, even though it revealed how broken his own platform is. Because now people can see, can verify, can understand the scope of the problem, can make informed choices about participation. Let me talk about the broader implications for democracy. Because this isn't just about one platform. This is about how modern propaganda works, how political discourse gets shaped, how democratic decision-making gets compromised by manipulation. Democracy depends on citizens making informed decisions based on understanding of issues and authentic expression of political preferences. That requires real information, real discourse, real understanding of what fellow citizens actually believe and want. When discourse is polluted by foreign actors pretending to be citizens, when information is manipulated by propaganda optimized for engagement, when apparent grassroots support is manufactured by people who aren't even in the country, democratic decision-making becomes nearly impossible. You can't make good decisions based on bad information. Can't understand what policies have real support when apparent support is manufactured. Can't have meaningful political debate when many participants aren't who they claim to be. Can't sustain democracy when the information environment is fundamentally compromised by manipulation. That's what we're facing. That's what Musk's platform represents. That's what the transparency feature revealed. Not just that X has problems, but that modern democratic discourse is vulnerable to manipulation in ways that previous generations didn't have to deal with. That technology has created tools for shaping opinion and manufacturing consensus that are more powerful and more subtle than anything that existed before. That defending democracy requires understanding and resisting those tools, and that's hard. Requires constant vigilance, requires media literacy, requires skepticism about sources, requires understanding how platforms work and what incentives drive content creation, requires recognizing that much of what appears to be authentic expression might actually be manufactured manipulation, requires work that most people don't have time or expertise to do consistently. That's the challenge. That's what makes this moment dangerous for democracy. Not just that manipulation exists, but that it's scaled beyond the ability of most people to detect or resist, that platforms like X have created systems where manipulation is profitable and therefore widespread, that foreign actors have figured out how to influence American discourse without Americans even knowing it's happening. And Musk, rather than fighting this, has amplified it, has created economic incentives that reward manipulation, has gutted moderation that might reduce it, has made verification meaningless by selling it to anyone who pays, has built a system optimized for engagement regardless of authenticity or truth, and has positioned himself as a champion of free speech while running a propaganda mill that undermines actual democratic discourse. That's the reality. That's what the transparency feature revealed. That's what defenders of democracy need to understand and respond to, not just by leaving X, though that helps, but by building alternative systems, alternative platforms, alternative forms of discourse that prioritize authenticity over engagement, that verify identity meaningfully, that moderate content to reduce manipulation, that understand democracy requires protecting discourse from pollution by foreign actors and profit-motivated propaganda. I don't have all the answers for how to do that. Don't have a perfect solution for how to build democratic discourse in an age of sophisticated manipulation. But I know it starts with understanding the problem, with recognizing what Musk has created, with seeing through the free speech rhetoric to the propaganda mill reality, with making informed choices about participation, with demanding better from platforms and leaders and fellow citizens. And I know it requires transparency, the kind of transparency Musk accidentally provided, that shows who's really behind accounts, that reveals when apparent grassroots support is actually manufactured, that makes manipulation visible so people can recognize and resist it. That creates accountability for those who would pollute democratic discourse for profit. That's what gives me hope. Not that problems don't exist, but that transparency can reveal them, that people, once they see manipulation, can choose to resist it, that democracy has survived other challenges by adapting and building new defenses, that this generation can do the same if we understand what we're facing and commit to defending discourse from pollution. So use the transparency feature. Check your accounts, see who's really American and who's pretending. Understand the scope of manipulation, make informed choices, demand better, build alternatives, defend democracy by defending authentic discourse from foreign actors playing roles for profit. That's what the moment requires. That's what Musk accidentally made possible by implementing transparency without thinking through what it would reveal. That's how we respond to his propaganda mill, not by accepting it, by exposing it, by choosing better, by building systems that serve democracy rather than undermine it. That's the challenge. That's the opportunity. That's what this revelation makes possible. If enough people see it, understand it, act on it. Choose authenticity over manipulation. Demand platforms that serve discourse rather than engagement. Build democratic systems that can resist propaganda as a service. That's my hope, what I'm working toward, what I'm asking others to join me in defending. Because democracy is worth it, is worth the effort of understanding manipulation, is worth the work of building alternatives, is worth defending from foreign actors and profit-motivated propaganda and billionaires who claim to promote free speech while running mills that undermine it. That's the story. That's what Musk revealed. That's what we need to respond to, not with despair, with determination, to build better, to demand more, to defend democracy by defending discourse from pollution, one transparent revelation at a time.